Hey girl, thanks for tuning in to Girl, You Are So Worthy. We are going through our Rediscovering Your Worth Bible study. Welcome to day 4. I'm Kayla Barlow, and this is
Ellisha Hastings.
Yay! Ellisha Hastings, my very best friend.
Hi.
You're so lovely and so pretty.
Thank you.
Oh, stop it. So have you ever felt like your worth is tied to how much you can do, or maybe you've been juggling work, family, friendships, and everything else trying to prove you are enough? Today, we're going to see how Jesus reminds us that our worth isn't found in our hustle. Do you feel like you need to constantly be busy to feel valuable? So much of the time we have to constantly be busy. Like I struggle, honestly, like with resting. Like Jonathan could take his day of rest. I'm like, we got this, this, and this, and this. Like if I lay in bed all day, after Christmas, like we had kind of a more chill day. And I'm like, I did nothing today. And I'm like, that is just such a terrible feeling at the end. But I'm like, my body, my brain needed that like moment to just rest and like actually worked through a lot of these Bible studies and just like really got to like spend time with the Lord and just like really kind of build it out. And it was just like, dang, I really needed that. But there's so much of the time that like you are always doing, because there's always something to be done, like whether it be laundry, running kids, or literally just cleaning house. Like, Lord, that thing is always like dirty. But thank the Lord I have a house.
That's right.
But I just always feel like you just always feel constantly busy, but your value is not in what you can do in a day, really.
Right. So I actually, I get a little bit scared to get still. Like, I've heard in a sermon before, actually in a sermon, this one was that this lady was talking about how she had a friend who prayed like for a couple hours every morning, and I just laughed so hard, and she was laughing at herself because I'm just like, God, I tell you what I need to tell you when I'm walking sometimes, like at work, when my eyes are open and I'm just talking to you, and to sit and be still and pray is something that I'm not super comfortable doing, because I think I am just constantly thinking like, what do I need to accomplish? Like, okay, I prayed today. There was an accomplishment. Okay, I got this done today, and it's like, and I know God wants me to be still more. Like I know that. And so I have to be super intentional about doing that. And I even sometimes, like when I get my God time in, it's when I'm exercising or when I'm doing my makeup or when I'm driving. And I think he's totally okay with that. But I also think sometimes he probably wants me to just sit and talk to him with nothing else going on. And it's a hard thing to do.
To actually take time and be intentional about that time. I always say like the Lord has to speak really quickly to me because I'm like always on the move. Sometimes if I am not busy, which is very far and few between, that like you just feel like you're like didn't get anything accomplished. I feel worthless today. I do not like know what even happened with the day, or I have nothing to show for the day. Because I think even in this culture, like you have to do to get. Right. And I think like it's just so like you have to be busy, you have to be grinding, you have to be hustling like to get the reward. And I think sometimes when you have that moment of rest, or when you have that time of just like your time to yourself, or to read, it's just like, or not even to read, just sit in your own and watch a show or do whatever. You just feel like, oh my gosh, I needed to be doing this, this, and this, and this. Like, and sometimes, no, you just needed that moment to sit and relax and enjoy him. I think too, like being able to, when you take that moment, like the Lord can speak to me quickly, but the times where I'm like actually intentional about the times that I spend with him, that's when he shows me more of like my calling, more of what is to come next. And I think like having those intentional times, giving him those moments to actually speak to you and share like what is on his heart for your calling in life.
Yeah. So I think like at work, I think it's different for at work rather than at home. At work, if I'm not constantly progressing, I don't feel as worthy just in my position at work. But I think a lot of times God is like he at work, I'm moving so much that I actually have fear of doing too much, and him saying, I need you to just stop thinking and quiet down and like listen to me or talk to me or ask me to help you. Like, you're doing all these things, but you're doing them under your power and not mine. And so I think it's different for maybe different situations you're into.
Yeah. That's good. I actually was just reminded of, we were driving back from a wedding yesterday, and it was brought to my attention. I remember this, like, when I was so little, it was the scripture that, like, if you won't cry out to them, I'll have the rocks cry out to me. And on our way home from Branson, it was water coming out of the rocks, but it was reminding me, like, I don't want to be so busy that he has to have the rocks cry out to him to be worshiped, to be loved. Like, I want to be that. Like, I want to slow down. I want to worship. I want to be with him in that moment, so the rocks don't have to. Like, I want to be that for him. I want to worship him. How does it feel when others don't notice or appreciate all you do?
Oh, it hurts. It hurts bad. And then like I get frustrated and a little bit bitter and maybe a little bit angry. And then
a little bit hateful. I feel like I get a little hateful. Like, what does she do? Like,
yeah. And it kind of affects everyone around me, my family, my children, my husband. But it doesn't take long for me to be in that like self-pity, for God to just humble me and be like, okay, reflect right now. Where's your joy? Okay. Why'd you lose it? Who are you depending on to give you those words of affirmation, which is my love language. So it's pretty quick. I think I've been miserable enough going through that I've learned, okay, who am I trying to please? Yeah.
And I feel like personally I have gotten better with this, like, because I think my focus has changed. Like, I'm not serving for you. I'm serving to honor and worship a king. Sure. And I think, like, when I changed my mindset in that, like, I'm not serving, like, I am serving you, but I am serving that you see Jesus, not me. Right. And I think that just helped me shift my focus of, like, I don't need you to see me as serving. Like, I need you to see Jesus through me. Like, I want you to see Jesus doing this for you, the smiling face that you come in and see, like, yeah, I might be serving. And overall, I am a happy person. I love people, but like, I am serving for Jesus, not for anything else, but to serve him and for him to be shown to other people. So
I think the more we serve, which at times feels like sacrifice. I heard this one time, sacrifice becomes delightful. And it does, the more you obey and the more it doesn't always feel like sacrifice. It may start when you're serving, or sometimes when our feelings don't add up and we don't want to do the thing God's asking us to do. But when we do it, it does become delightful, where you're just like, okay, push through. And then you have this joy that you're like, no wonder he asked us to do this stuff.
Yeah. So. Have you ever struggled to rest because you're afraid of being seen as lazy or unproductive?
Maybe with my husband, like if I'm resting a little bit on the couch too much at home.
I think other people can be seen like as, like, I think that's also like a mindset. No one thinks, like, if you're sitting on the couch for one day, like, they're not gonna be like, that's lazy. Jonathan, my husband, actually loves for me to sit on the couch because he's like, yes, I don't have to do 900 things. Like, she is sitting down, she is resting. But I think it's your own mindset of like, oh my gosh, they're gonna think I'm lazy if I'm sitting down. I'm, and it's all in your own head. Like, it's not anyone else saying this to you if that's not your norm. It's literally like, oh my gosh, they are taking their time for themselves. That's what they need. I'm going to change this diaper. I'm going to let her rest. And I think a lot of times, like, that, like, being unproductive, that's all made up in your head. That is not what people think of you.
And like, how many times are we excited that someone, like, who does just go, and you hear that they said no to something and you're like, good for you. Like, tell them no.
Yeah. So. Okay, let's dive into some scriptures. So about a woman who hustles all the time. Out of Luke 10, we're going to just read that whole little section. So 38 through 42. Now, as they went on their way, Jesus entered a village, and a woman named Martha welcomed him into her house. And she had a sister called Mary, who sat at the feet of Jesus and listened to his teachings. But Martha was distracted with much serving And she went up to him and said, Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to serve alone? Tell her then to help me. But the Lord answered her, Martha, Martha, you are anxious and troubled about many things, but one thing is necessary. Mary has chosen the good portion, which will not be taken away from her. Any woman can relate to that.
For sure.
Like being able to like, oh my gosh, this person, this important person, this Jesus, the King of the universe is coming. I am going to serve him, and I'm going to do everything that I can to make sure his stay, his dinner is perfect. And I think of like life group. When I first started life group in my home, like there was not going to be anything on my floors. There was not going to be like, I wanted to be able, if those babies wanted to crawl on my floor, like it was going to be spick and span clean. But I realized like, I don't want to say hated, but I started to just, oh my gosh, it's life group. Oh my gosh, it's so much work. Although it is still a lot of work. I don't like, they know, like maybe don't open that closet. Like it's not going to be clean. Before in our first years of, doing life group, it like every single spot, every single cabinet was cleaned, and I am just like, nope, not anymore. I got too much other things. But I think like we can be so busy for like what I want other people to think of like my house or my home, but like I feel so much of a relief when I'm like, man, maybe don't open that closet. I don't know what's gonna fall out, or watch your toes when you open that door. But I think it's just, I can like take so much more out of our life group now, that I can just be present and live life with them, because like who has a closet that's like every single day of their, especially with 3 kids, you never know what they're going to put in there, but like no one is perfect. It is the house that you live in. And I think like so much of the time, like you are trying to just serve because of what you think that they're going to think. They are never going to think that.
No, definitely not. It reminds me of like, have you heard someone say before, like, I'm not your friend because of what you look like. Like our friendships weren't built based on looks. The houses we go to, we don't go to them based on looks. Like they, you know, these people, when they leave our homes, they don't remember those things. They remember like how they felt that night, how vulnerable they were, how encouraged they were, how we talked about the Lord in a home and had a meal together. And so, I don't know. I agree. I definitely can get in that habit. I mean, there's been times where we're just like, oh my gosh, we're not going to have enough food. Like, what if we don't have enough food to feed all these people? And, you know, I've had to pray, like, Lord, provide. And he always does. There's not been one time we've been without food. But just the little things you get distracted with. Yeah. And that is one thing that I, like I said, that's a fear of mine is I don't fear just the blatant obvious sins. I fear the ones of distraction. Like I don't know how to word that, but you don't hear people say often, hey, her sin is distraction, you know what I mean? But I feel like that is one temptation for me, not one that I'm intentionally trying to do, but that just happens in my life where the enemy's like, you know what, like she's a busy person, we can get her distracted, we can make her lose her focus, because these other things I've already dealt with her on. So let's try this one. Yeah. You know? So.
I've heard a sermon that said, if Satan can't make you bad, he's going to make you busy.
Yes.
And I think that like that has stuck with me so much. Like, I'm not a bad person. I will give you the shirt off my back, but I am busy. And I'm like, Lord, let me only be busy for your work, not the busyness that I can consume myself in, because I know I can make myself busy.
Right.
So don't be bad. Maybe Satan's making you busy. How did Jesus respond?
I think Martha was in her feelings. Like she was focused on her and what she felt in that moment. Yeah. And not on like who's right here in front of us, which is definitely something that I think we're just naturally like self-focused in life, and we want what we want when we can get it. And so I think that's something that's very easy for us to do, is just be like, well, I feel this way and I'm doing all the work, and why are they so lazy? So
I think I just thinking through like how much of the time are we a Martha in a like supermarket or in our everyday lives where we're just going through passing by so many people that need us to be a Mary, to like be there to listen to them, to be there to just engage in a conversation with them. And how much of the time I'm just like, I'm too busy because I'm doing my own thing.
Yeah.
And it's just like, maybe be a Martha at some point. What does Jesus's gentle correction teach us about priorities? So he says, Martha, Martha, you are worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed, or indeed only one thing.
I can just hear him saying like my name in place of Martha. And just like, so yes, gentle, but so calm and like almost like, what are you doing, Ellisha? Like, what are you doing? Just sit down and be quiet and look at me and be with me. And that stuff is so minute. Like it's nothing.
It's meaningless
like,
in the big picture of things. And he is saying, I am here right in front of you. And like, you are too busy worrying about like everything else. And I truly am the only important thing. And I have such short time with you. Come here. Like, come over here. I am the one that you need to be investing in right now.
Yeah. I'm naturally a planner too. So I'm always in my job and just in my life in general. But I'm always thinking so far ahead with everything. And like, we got to have a plan for this. And we got to make sure this is covered and that's covered. And I laugh because I know he just laughs. You know, he's just laughing at me like she thinks she's going to know the answer to this and it's not going to happen soon. But I think with that, like, I don't know, being still and just him just being like, I will move you quicker than you will ever move you. Like if you would just be still in this moment and quit trying to think so far ahead and come to me. Like I heard one time, it always stuck out to me. Jesus is like the fast track. He is so much quicker. We want things so fast. We want to know. We want it to be answered quickly. And I think when we try to do that ourselves, we slow ourselves down. Like we go so slow, and we don't we can't even envision like how quick it would look like being under his power. But we're always trying to do it ourselves.
Do our own thing. How does this story challenge the idea that busyness equals worth? I mean, it challenges it because it truly is. Jesus is saying like, Martha, Martha, slow down, come and visit me. Like your worth is found in me, sitting at my feet, learning from me, and not the busyness that you're trying to create this experience or atmosphere of this dinner. Like that means nothing.
Right.
I do not eat on bread alone. Like I don't need your dinner. I will serve the Lord. Like I will follow my Father. And so I think that kind of truly, like he's saying, just slow down. Like what you're doing does not equal your worth. Your worth is found sitting at my feet. And I think Mary truly found that surrender where maybe Martha hadn't found it yet. So love isn't earned through hustle. It's received through surrender. Take time to reflect. Identify one area of your life where busyness has distracted you from Jesus. And meditate. Spend 5 minutes in stillness today, asking God to remind you of your worth. So I challenge you, say no to the unnecessary tasks this week to make space for rest and connection with Jesus. Girl, you are so worthy. Join us for day 5.